You're watching EVH and Gear TV, brought to you by Stewart Travel Guitars. See the incredible stowaway travel guitar at stewartguitars.com. Microphones for EVH and Gear TV are provided by Rode Microphones. And official Van Halen merchandise is provided by VanHalenStore.com. Here's your host from Ontario, Canada, EVH artist Eric Broadbent.
Hey everyone, it is the weekend. Happy Friday to you all. You're watching EVH and Gear TV. EVH and Gear TV? That's just a private joke. I hope everyone is doing well. We are live, and we'll tell you about that little joke in a moment. But we're joined tonight by Damon Johnson, a guest I've been looking forward to having for quite some time, and has had some friendly conversation just off the air a moment ago. But Damon, how are you doing?
Doing great, Eric. This is so cool for me to be a part of this. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, we all are. I definitely am as well, but I know a lot of the fans, you know, as I was telling you off the air, I was kind of putting the buzz out there that you're coming on soon, and people are like, oh my God, like there's so many people out there that you know them as the shredders and stuff like that, and there's a lot of players out there that are very underrated, and you're one of them. I mean, the chops that you have, I know sometimes when I say that to certain guests, they get embarrassed, and I don't mean to embarrass you when I say this, but there's a few players out there like Ian Thornley here in Canada. He's a monster player. And
wow, monster.
He is. I'm glad you know him. And he has an angelic voice. And I know this will really kind of freak you out when I say this, but Stevie Ray Vaughan, a master player and a beautiful voice. You're in that category as well too, a monster player and a credible voice. So it's nice to be able to talk about both. Well,
Eric, I'm very humbled by that description and that comparison. I had the great fortune of spending a little bit of time with Ian way back in the 90s. You know, when Big Rec was starting to really make some noise, we wound up on a few festivals together. And,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, man, he was super cool and just what a monster talent. And I'm hoping our paths cross again really soon. And I mean, Stevie Ray, man, what more can I say? He's on my Mount Rushmore for sure.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Certainly is. Well, we've got so much to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about all kinds of geekness over guitar. We've got the new album we're going to be talking about as well too in depth. But let's geek out a little bit as we warm up. But I always like to, you know, kind of warm up a little bit. We're kind of the opening act here right now, and let's talk about guitar itself. When did you start guitar, and really what got you into it?
I was really fortunate to grow up in a household with a ton of music. My dad played and still plays a little guitar. Never professionally, but just for fun. Always loved it. My mom is a great singer. You know, she sang in church and she played some piano and would sing around the house. So, you know, I couldn't appreciate it then, but that was a pretty powerful influence on me. So then, you know, when me and my friends in middle school started discovering rock and roll and all those great bands, I think I was maybe a couple of steps ahead of some of my friends, you know, because I'd been exposed to that musicality from my parents. So, you know, they really deserve a lot of credit for that. My dad had a brother, he passed away several years ago, but just a world-class singer, guitar player. Never did it professionally, but I just remember he would sit around the kitchen, you know, with his acoustic guitar and sing really challenging vocal things. I remember him singing like El Paso by Marty Robbins, and you know, he could sing Glenn Campbell songs and stuff like that. So, you know, pretty powerful for a kid 11, 12 years old to be able to see right up front, man, like, all right, I see what he's doing with his fingers, and he's singing. And, you know, the guitar was my first real love. I didn't, you know, the singing thing was kind of by necessity. I'd never had like this crave to be in the spotlight or the guy behind the microphone. I kind of got into that by default. But no question, man, I was really lucky to grow up in a super musical household.
Well, that's good influence for sure too. And that was one of the things I was going to ask you is, were you one of these guys that, okay, I want to be a singer and I'm going to play some guitar, but I hear what you're saying about the necessity, kind of like Eddie Van Halen back in the day. And we'll talk about Van Halen a little bit throughout the program, but I don't think Eddie ever wanted to be a singer. You know, he was out there singing in the early days and like ruining his voice because he didn't know how to sing. He was not formally trained and he was killing himself. So I can see that. I have a lot of friends in the business where they've become a singer because they had to. and some of them are amazing. You know, because they became the singer and they were the singer all along. So I think, did you take any training like eventually down the road, or it just came naturally to you?
Well, I did have. I was so fortunate the way the whole thing went down, Eric. To really just kind of take you through it. The band that I had together. I grew up in Alabama, and I had moved to Birmingham in the mid '80s because there was a decent scene there. So in 1990, I put a band together. We had a singer. We showcased for a lot of the labels. We just weren't really getting any bites. But the one guy from Virgin Records, he loved the band and the songs, minus the singer. He said, "Hey, man, I'm going to help you find a singer. You know, I think you're a great guitar player." So, you know, I had always sang backups, and, you know, like in the club days, I would sing 2 or 3 songs just to give the singer a break or whatever. So long story short, we couldn't really come up with somebody that was the right fit. And this A&R guy heard me sing some songs in a club one night and sort of forced me the next day, you know, to get in the studio and try singing some of the other songs that we had been writing, you know.
Okay.
So that was favorably received by him, and thankfully the other guys in my band, they were like, "Yeah, man, go for it. You can do it. You know, I've always thought you had a good voice." You know, their encouragement was just invaluable. So straight away, that A&R guy, Aaron Jacobus was his name. I'll be indebted to him forever, man. First thing he did was get me into some proper vocal lessons, not to teach me how to sing, but to teach me how to take care of it, how to warm up. You know, things that are important for your voice, man, like your diet and getting plenty of sleep and all that boring stuff that I did not want to hear, man. We just couldn't wait to go on tour and drink beer and chase girls. So.
That's great. Yeah, I can see why you're indebted to him. And the cool thing was, too, is your bandmates were supportive, because, you know, they could have went kind of south there. The guys could have said, "Dude, you're not a singer, man. We don't do it." You know, so you had a lot of encouragement.
They definitely could have, and they didn't. And, you know, now, you know, roll the clock forward, 25 years, man. And here I am, you know, solo artist full time, and put out a record that I'm so proud of. And, you know, I wasn't really maybe ready for it then like I am now, but I've really embraced it and got so much more comfortable with the sound of my own voice. It took me a minute, but I'm finally there. Better late than never, I guess.
That's right. Well, I've got to say, I tell every guest this as well, too, as they come on the show. You know, I like to surround myself in the music of each guest, and I like to study a bunch of interviews as well, too, just to learn a little bit more about the artist, in your case, you. And I haven't seen you do a bad interview. I think I was really looking forward to this because it's as relaxed can be, you know, and it's like a couple dudes just talking guitar and hits. You know, it's kind of, I like it.
Well, me too, brother. I mean, that's always the best. I think for you, you've already learned that that's how you get the best responses. That's how you get the best answers. The more it's like just a normal conversation. You know, I mean, I get it. It's probably good that it's later in the day.
Yeah.
You know, my wife laughs at me. She goes, "When you do interviews and you've had like a couple of cups of coffee, you talk really loud and really fast."
Yeah. I get that here all the time. The wife, like, it's my nature. I'm a fast talker. I've been that way my whole life. And the wife, like, she's the only one who can get away with it by saying you're talking too fast, right? But we'll go like to the drive-through, Taco Bell drive-through, or a coffee shop drive-through, and I'll say something, and they get it all wrong. She's like, "Why do you think they get it wrong? You're talking like this, right?" And a couple nights back, I had our phenomenal guitar player from over in Peru, Charlie Parra, amazing player. And he was worried about his native, well, he's, speaks Spanish, and he was worried about his English, and he did phenomenal. And I'm thinking, oh my God, so I speak so fast. Imagine someone who doesn't speak the native English language very well. I'm going to probably really mess him up. But I guess maybe I slowed down a little bit, or he was just so adept to it. But it was no barrier. When you start to have fun, you're relaxed. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, man. And you know, credit to our very much smarter than we are wives for, keeping an eye on us and just keeping us in line, keeping us in check.
That's right. They're always right. And even when they're wrong, we have to give them a pass because they're right more than wrong.
Always.
Well, as I was sharing with you too, and I know you appreciated this off the air, I was saying that my better half here, Nocturnal Butterfly. That's her name in the chat. She goes, her real name is Sandra Lee. She runs a chat really efficiently, and she'll be sharing a lot of your links throughout the evening as well, too, in the chat and in the description. So we've got links to your YouTube and your website and all that kind of stuff. But I was showing you some of your music. Obviously, she knew stuff with Brother Kane and things like that. But so she saw Shivering, which we'll talk about, the new single. Loved it, of course. And then what does she do? She never forms her opinion on the first time she hears a studio track. She goes and she caught one of your videos. It was actually, I wanted to just follow up immediately after you're playing something acoustic at a club. And she's like, okay, perfect. I love them because you sounded the same, you know, which you proved yourself, basically. When you're on stage, a lot of guys and girls out there, you listen to the album, you're like, okay, that's great. And you listen to them live, you're kind of like, oh, man, oof, you know, but that wasn't the case here. So kudos.
Well, please give her my regards and tell her I said thank you. Yeah, you know, the whole singing thing, even though I sang throughout the 90s in Brother Kane, you know, the only acoustic performing I ever did is like if we went to a radio station and they wanted us to play, you know, the song that we had out as our single at that moment. But, you know, as far as getting in front of an audience, that took me some time. And I didn't really do that until really after Brother Kane had called it quits in 2000. So what a powerful learning tool that's been for me. I really wish I had have done more of that, maybe even before Brother Kane. I think it would have helped my confidence a lot and just helped me kind of find my voice and you know, find what range to sing in. That's another funny thing I'm experiencing, Eric. You know, now that I have my solo band and we play a lot of those Brother Kane songs. I'm proud of those songs and you know, I'm grateful that the fans really enjoy hearing that stuff. But you know, I was a young man back then and I was singing, you know, some of that stuff in a range that was arguably a couple steps out of reach. So, you know, but it's fun for me now because it kind of pushes me, you know, to like try and look after myself and stay in shape and keep my endurance up. And so, yeah, man, the whole singing thing, it's like, who knew? I just wanted to be a guitar player. I wanted to be Eddie Van Halen. Nice. I wanted to be Joe Perry. And, you know, and sometimes you don't get exactly what you want, but you get what you need. That's why that's a great Mick Jagger lyric, man. There's so much truth in that.
You don't get what you want, but you do get what you need. That's right. I love that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's jump over the chat, say hi to a bunch of our regulars that are over here and some new faces probably as well. Thanks to some of the people you've sent over. Thank you for sharing the links as well. So over in our live chat, I know you probably can't see it, but I'll say hi to anyone who says hi to you there. My good friend Gary Holt is here. Nocturnal Butterfly, as I mentioned. Brad Miller is here. Brian Cote. Let me scroll down a little further. Let me see. Quentin James is here. Ryan Adam. Hey. Let me see. Scroll down. Richard Henry. Hey, everyone. Looking forward to this. Damon is awesome. I met him a few times. Hope when he tours, he can come to see us in Belfast. So he's tuning in from over in Belfast, which is fantastic.
Oh, right on, man. Yeah. Hello to Northern Ireland. That's great. Thank you, brother.
And what I love about Richard is it's got to be like 3 o'clock in the morning for him right now. And he tunes in for these shows. You know, he's a massive monster guitar player too. So it's really an honor to have people like that tune in on a regular basis when it's way past their bedtime.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of monster players, a good Canadian friend of mine here just down the road, Jason Sedites. He's a Yamaha guitars artist. He's jumping in to say hi. Great fusion player. Actually, he has Marco Miniman playing drums on his record, a couple records. And
Marco, okay.
We have a monster player. Scott Roos is here. Let me see here. Scroll down a little bit more. We'll get down a bit further. And we're going to have some really cool Eddie Van Halen stories tonight, too, for the folks in the chat. It's got some cool stuff coming up.
Man. Looking forward to that. Sure.
Yeah. And it's what I always do with my guests, too. Sometimes I scare people away because they hear EVH and they're like, but I don't know anything about Van Halen. And what I do with the show is I just sprinkle that Van Halen topic on people. So I might have someone on the show that doesn't know a thing about Van Halen. And what my common theme on the show is it's a couple things. I'm like, what do you, the guests, think of, you know, how Eddie Van Halen influenced the world of guitar? How did he influence the world of manufacturing? And then, hey, if we want to go down that rabbit hole of tone and things like that, if depending on the guest knowledge, we do. If the person knows nothing about Van Halen, we just kind of dance around that, and then the rest of the show's around them. But I think we're going to probably talk a little bit more than
Bro, I know a lot about Van Halen.
And
so,
I'm thinking you might know more than me, and that's going to be great, which is great. And I don't profess to know it all at all. Trust me, I don't. But I know you know some stories that I don't know, so that's going to be great. Idiot of the day, my friend Jeff is here. Carlo Santin, another great Canadian friend of mine. This is great. It's a really nice crowd tonight. Todd Graff is here. Mel O'Brien joining us from the other side of the ocean as well too. Let me see here. Guitar Hack is here, running a fantastic YouTube channel. Let me see here. And Dolores Fisher is here. So I think I will leave off there. And I want to jump back to some guitar stuff for a second. And I think I know the answer to this, but obviously in your new video in Shivering, I'm seeing some beautiful Les Pauls and the, I think, is it a 335 you're playing? Or what?
You know what I'm playing in the video? I'm actually playing a 335 and a 330.
Oh, 330. Okay, right.
Yeah, there's that beautiful Sunburst 330. That guitar is really special for me, Eric. My dad bought that guitar brand new in 1962.
Ooh.
It's a 1960 is the model year. But so I was born a couple years after that. And, you know, when I played in my very first garage band, you know, that's the guitar I showed up at practice with. And the great story is that when I graduated high school, my dad gave me that guitar that was my graduation gift. And, you know, the Gibson 330 kind of paralleled the Epiphone Casino that the Beatles played. You know, George and John played those in a lot of the videos and a lot of the recordings. So just a special sound, you know, not necessarily the right guitar for a guy that's trying to sound like Gary Rosington or Stevie Ray Vaughan or Eddie Van Halen or Ace Frehley for that matter, you know, but it's the one that I started on. And so I was really, it's actually on the record. I used that guitar on several songs, you know, because it has a very unique sound, certainly too. Usually I'm playing Les Pauls, as you know. So, yeah, really proud to get that guitar in the video for sure.
That's cool. That's a very sentimental guitar. There's probably a lot of mojo, mental mojo in that guitar.
A lot of mojo, man, for sure.
Isn't it amazing?
For
like
sure.
some people that don't get that, like, and the people that usually don't get the mojo of a guitar is, they're new, right? So they don't really necessarily, they're new to the instrument, and they'll learn over time that, you know, God forbid, if if a person had some of their instruments stolen and the insurance company cuts you a check, you go to the store and you buy them again, but that mojo doesn't come with the guitar.
Yeah, it's never the same. Well, there's no substitute for just time invested, you know, practicing on a guitar, playing it live. You know, there's certainly a half a dozen guitars that I'm super connected to emotionally, spiritually, for those very reasons. You know, I just put a lot of time in on them. So, yeah, man, thank you for asking about that for sure.
Beautiful Explorers that you play as well too.
Yeah, I've got a mid, it's like an 83 Carina Explorer Gibson that it's another super special guitar for me. You know, some of my other heroes growing up were Jeff Carlisi from 38 Special.
Okay.
And Ricky Medlock, when he was in Blackfoot, you know, he had a Carina Explorer. Now, I came to find out later, because I've become friends with both of those guys, which, you know, so much fun, man, to talk shop with them. But I think Ricky Medlock's was an Ibanez Destroyer. And then the guitar that Carlisi played was like a custom-made Explorer. So they both had envy in their eyes, you know, when I showed them my Gibson Carina. So yeah, man, love that guitar too. I'm glad you checked that out.
Yeah, one of the guys, my buddies here that's watching the show, I know he's enjoying two things right now. Guitar Hack, I mentioned his name. Number one, he's a big Kiss fan, loves Ace Frehley, and we do here as well too. It's we talk about Kiss a lot, but he's a massive Gibson fan, and I think he laughs at me sometimes because I've never owned a Les Paul. I've copies, yes. I've had hundreds of different guitars over the years since I was a teenager, but I've never owned a Les Paul, and I do feel that, and I'm waiting for the right one. It has to fall into my lap with the right. You got to feel the mojo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's a huge Les Paul fan. He collects them all the time, and he's out there like he's always looking, but he'll go try one. If it doesn't feel right away, he walks right away from it. He won't take it and say, okay, I'm gonna break this guitar in, you know, whatever. But it has to be right away. But he just got, I think it was a nice Firebird the other day. But did you hear that story about, speaking of how a guitar can change a person, did you follow with that Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins when he had his Strat stolen and it was gone for 27 years?
You know what? I just caught the tail end of that the other day, and I wanted to investigate that, but it sounds like pretty heavy, man.
Yeah.
Like very, very special, almost influential guitar for not just his playing, but his songwriting and recording and everything. So that's pretty amazing, man, that it turned up and made its way back to him.
That's what I know for sure. And I don't know the full facts. I mean, I bookmarked the article. I just kind of paraphrased a lot, like I do a lot of times, just kind of skip through. But I guess it was so important to him that it changed the way he actually played guitar. And that's why it was such a detrimental loss to him, because it must have fought him or something, but it made him play guitar completely different. And when he lost it, it was stolen, basically, right out of the back of a club. And so he's talking to the security guard, and he goes, well, where were you? And, I'm not sure what the security guard said, but, it wasn't his fault necessarily. But now he had to look at guitars differently. And when he got it back, I think it was just one of those moments where I think he needed a few minutes alone it's almost like thinking someone in your family has passed away and you find out they're alive. I know it's a little extreme, but maybe not so much.
Well, there's definitely a connection there, man. And, for me, the Gibson Les Paul was just the watermark right from the beginning. Growing up in the South, there were so many amazing guitar players in all of those great Southern bands. Certainly Duane Allman. I mentioned Gary Rosington. Toy Caldwell from the Marshall Tucker Band. Barry Bailey from the Atlanta Rhythm Section. Damn, what a player, man. He played a gold top deluxe, with the smaller humbucking pickups in there. Are those even humbuckers in a deluxe? They may be a single coil. I should know that. But and I mentioned Carlisi, just great players, man. And then of course Joe Perry and Jimmy Page and Paul Kossoff, huge, man.
Yeah,
huge influence. And of course Ace Frehley, man. I mean, we were all absorbed with Kiss. I mean, I guess in a lot of ways that was our first band that we fell in love with, because combination of rock songs and the comic book element, when we were 13 and 14, that was a big deal.
Sure was.
So, man, I just, when I finally bought my first Les Paul, I was a junior in high school, and it was an emotional day for sure. I certainly still have that guitar. I played it on all the Brother Kane stuff, It's always flattering when people say, hey, man, what was your rig on that first Brother Kane album? And, it was just my old Marshall and that guitar kind of plugged straight in. I think our producer, Jim Mitchell, did a couple EQ things maybe, but that was it. So, look at that. I mean, just that story right there, the journey that one guitar has kind of taken. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm a nerd about that stuff, man. I'm a total nerd for it.
I have a bit of a term. It's just a term I've kind of coined for people like yourself that can get by with a Les Paul right straight into a Marshall, like slashes like that. I've got some local buddies here too that are just insane. They'll play a Les Paul, maybe a Tube Screamer into a Marshall, and the tone is just insane. I try it and I sound like crap. I call it like an organic rocker. It's one of those things where I'm the opposite, and a lot of guitar players are the opposite, where we have to have our outboard gear to get in our comfort zone and our safety blanket. And so I think that says a lot about people too, that, maybe are they a better musician? I don't know, but they can hear the sounds in their head. They can get it across without, pieces in between.
Well, Eric, before we did our interview, I was thinking about that very thing, because I'm not a gearhead to the level that some of my friends are. I mean, I could sit here and name drop for 20 minutes, some of the most well-known guitar players in the world of rock. And they're, these guys are all friends of mine. Mm-hmm. And, they've got extensive pedal boards and channel switching systems and, and more power to them. That was just never a path that I was motivated to take. I guess it's safe to say I've just been a minimalist from the beginning. If you've got a great guitar with a great pickup, you got a great amp and the right speakers, then I like to kind of wrestle the sound out of that guitar. And, like three of my biggest influences are Stevie Ray Vaughan, Gary Moore, Eddie Van Halen. all three of those guys, man, minimalists. They were, you know, their tones were so in their hands.
For sure.
You know, Eddie could pick up any guitar and he's going to sound like Eddie. The same with Stevie. Gary, for sure, man. I mean, Gary, that guy, he might have been the best of all time, you know, just he had the whole package. So, you know, I can't imagine there's any gig I couldn't play without, you know, a tuner and a tube screamer, maybe a wah pedal, and that's all I need. Okay, a little delay is nice, you know. That,
ambiance, yeah.
That's about it, man. So, yeah, I've always been kind of less is more in that department.
That's good. Oh, for sure. Well, if you look at Eddie as well, too, you look at those vintage, you know, 78, 76 to 78, even 79, you see the stage, he's got like basically stuff duct taped to the stage and very, very minimal. And the only reason why he went to where he is today is because technology changed, and he was kind of responsible for a lot of that technology changing as well, too. But, you know, as technology came in, he upgraded eventually to, you know, the full blown, you know, fridge racks of, you know, as gear as you see. But he could still play, you know, into that Marshall or one of his amps, and it sounded like he can play a pig nose amplifier and sound like Eddie Van Halen.
Eric, can I tell you one of my Eddie Van Halen stories right now?
I would love it. Let's go for it.
This is the perfect time for it. So, Brother Kane, we were so giddy, excited, man, to get some Van Halen dates. We got to go out and support them in '96 on the Balance tour. So there was an afternoon. They were all set up, and I had passed Eddie in the hallway, and I had asked him about his gear, I think, the day before, and he's like, "Hey, Damon, you want to come check out the rig?" I was like, "Hell yeah, man, I'd love to." So, you know, man, he was every day it seemed like he was getting new Wolfgang guitars from Peavey. He was getting more 5150 amps from Peavey. Just all this gear, man. It was overwhelming. Mm-hmm. I mean, they might have had half of a semi devoted just to Eddie's amps and guitars. So he showed me his rack and all these amps. You know, he had the 5150 was in its first incarnation, you know. And, you know, just a wall of sound, man. It was incredible. And, you know, I stood in front of the cabinets, you know, and kind of at his microphone. And he's playing, and I'm just checking it out. And you know, he's showing me the guitar, and he just got the drop D tuning thing on his Floyd Rose, you know, so he could, you know, at any second he could drop the E string down to D and play Unchained or any of the other songs that were in that tuning. So I remember he handed his tech his guitar. We walked around the amps. We were still making small talk. Well, I looked down at the bottom of this rack of heads, and I see this old beat up Marshall. It's turned on. It's got two cables coming out of it. And he's talking, and I looked at him and kind of like pointed at that amp, and he just looks at me and he goes, "Shh."
Wow. Wow.
You know, like, don't tell anybody.
Isn't
but
that
I still
something?
got my Marshall in the chain. You know, it's almost like, okay, bro, that's the magic amp right there. And, I loved it, man. It was a great moment.
I never heard that story. I would love to be the fly on the wall to witness that.
Yeah, really awesome. But yeah, you know, Jesus, man, that guy sounds great too. Like you said, a pig nose. You can run him do anything. Yeah. He's amazing. Amazing.
I heard on that tour, especially that tour, Eddie was very generous with gear. I got a buddy here in Canada. They did some dates with him as well, too, in Our Lady Peace. Matter of fact, I might be acquiring one of the pieces of gear. It's one of Eddie's 5150 combos that he said, "Oh, you want one of these? Here you go." And he passed it on to him because Our Lady Peace was doing a lot of dates with him. Actually, I saw the show. It was a Canadian pay-per-view here in Toronto, Ontario. And that was
man.
Yeah.
Totally. No, Ed was so gracious, man. He sent a half stack to my house, and
nice.
Yeah. And I have that, and I still have I've got this gorgeous purple,
Ernie Ball,
like kind of purple flame, Wolfgang, and it's just, as far as all the guitars that I used like to record with, I don't know that I've ever had a guitar that stays that well intonated and so well in tune. It's just the perfect guitar to track with, man.
Now, is it a PV or Ernie Ball? Well, I guess it would be Wolfgang. It would be PV Wolfgang, of course.
Yeah. It was a PV.
You know what's funny about that? I have several of them as well, and I had the Purple Flame one. And I had them all in a series of succession. I had 97, 98, 99 at the time, which was pretty cool. And, you know, at one time, you know, I had some bills, whatever, and I sold the purple one. And it's a buddy that bought it. And the only reason why he bought it, he had a Purple Music Man, and he wanted the compliment, you know, he wanted the twin, right? I sold it for like a stupid price, like about $1,000. I know I could probably offer him $1,500 and he might sell it. I'd even pay $16 or whatever to get it back. But here's the funny thing. The pickups were stock, like in every Wolfgang I have. Nothing different about it other than the Purple Flame. And I have a black maple top, you know, a basswood body maple top, painted black one. Was my main one. And so I would switch from time to time live, and I would switch to this purple one. And the sound man would ask me after the show, "Oh, what'd you do different? Did you have a pedal? Did you have a booster? Did you have this? Did you have that? What did you do differently?" And I'm like, "Nothing." And he goes, "That guitar cut through like no other." And it was just magic. You know,
the purple one?
The purple one did.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was just a nice piece of wood.
Yeah,
lucky.
I mean, that's funny you're saying that, because there's definitely some good mojo in the one that I have as well.
And he sent you that one. That's awesome. That's very special.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Super special. That was a great tour to be a part of. That's some great memories for me.
On fire on that tour too. He was really on fire.
Yeah, you know, he had fully embraced his sobriety, and you know, they were firing on all cylinders, man. You know, it was a shock. The end of that tour, they had the big falling out with Sam, and then I had the additional amazing experience that Sammy called me, and
really?
I wound up writing a song with him that made it to that solo record that next year, Marching to Mars.
I did not know that.
Yeah, man. We wrote a song together called Salvation on Sand Hill. He got excited about a book I had with me that I was reading, and he's like, "What's that book about?" And I started telling him, and he's like, "Oh, that's it. We're writing a song about that right now." So yeah, man, I got love for all four of those guys. You know, Sam, Michael. I just saw Michael at NAMM in January, and I had some great discussions with Alex as well. So for a kid that just, man, I worshipped Van Halen, especially those, you know, those first 5 or 6 records for all of us guitar players, man. Those records were biblical.
They were.
Just there's no heavier adjective. They were biblical, and so to get to be around them and make some small talk, and yeah, it's a dream come true for me, no doubt.
I guess so. And I apologize too. I didn't get a chance to meet you at NAMM because we were there for 3 days as well too. But there are so many people I literally made a list of reminders so I could check them off, so I did not forget people I wanted to see. And I had so many people that I actually missed. My son and I were running between different booths shooting videos and stuff. And we only did about 6 or 8 videos, but we were like all over the place. And there's so many people I regret missing. And I obviously could have met you there, but we'll hopefully cross paths.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, there's always next time.
That's right.
I love going to NAMM, and I had a great experience this year. So for sure, man, we'll hook up next time.
Awesome. There's a question I was going to ask you, but one of my friends actually kind of asked a better version of the question in the chat. So Carlo Santin asked, I was going to ask if you play Floyd Roses at all, and he asked, have you ever played a Wolfgang? So you've got that one, but have I not seen somewhere in one of your videos, didn't you have one of the newer EVHs as well, to the EVH gear?
No, man. It's funny that Wolfgang I was describing has a stop tailpiece on it.
Okay.
But I, all Floyd Roses early in my playing, I had a couple of Kramers early on.
Oh,
I had
nice.
2 kind of homemade guitars. You take like a Chandler body and a Warmoth neck, and you throw a Seymour Duncan in there and a Floyd Rose. And I had a couple of those. It's funny, man, because I work so closely, I'm so associated with Gibson, which I'm proud of and I love. And Gibson makes some, they make a Les Paul with a Floyd Rose on it. It's called an Axis.
Alex Lifeson uses those a lot.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Eric, I just can't bring myself to, it's hard to get my head around that,
Maybe sacrilege, maybe for you as the traditional Les Paul player, maybe?
Yeah, but look, I stand next to Scott Gorham, and Thin Lizzy and my time in Black Star Riders. That's what he plays, man. He plays the Axis, and, he loves it, man. That guy doesn't want to walk on stage without the Floyd Rose on that Les Paul. So, it obviously works for Scott.
Yeah.
You know, but I recorded with, I've actually got an old Ibanez. I have this, it was a gem from like the late 80s. And I think it was like fluorescent yellow,
Okay.
Eric.
Yeah.
And my buddy, we stripped all the paint off of it. Like every stitch of that yellow we took off. So it's just the wood grain. You know, I guess it looks kind of like Nuno Betancourt's guitar or something.
Yeah.
But, you know, that guitar's got a Floyd on it. And I put out an EP of 5 songs back in 2016. And I used that guitar. And the very first sound you hear on the whole thing is almost like that, you know, like Eddie's Dive Bomb on Dead or Alive of Van Halen 2. That's kind of how my song starts.
Okay.
It's a song called Dead. And so, yeah, the Floyd is definitely there. And, yeah, bro, I'd love to get my hands on one of those EVHs. I saw Jack White play in Dallas, Texas last year, and he's got one with the Floyd and rocking it, you know. So such a great looking guitar, great sounding guitar.
Did you notice what he did to that one? He had the team modify it. He's painted a different color. Got this kind of little, I don't know, kind of a belly cut thing on it with a different appendage on it, and he's got 3 pickups in it.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I was standing a little further back.
Yeah, it'd be hard to see, but three humbuckers and a weird color, so it's kind of, I don't want to say a Jack White signature because it's not, but it's, I think they made 3 or 4 of them for him because you could see it in the factory, so that was kind of cool.
Well, I love Jack. That guy's, I'm a fan, you know, like that guy's really been inspiring, you know, his songwriting, his playing, his production, everything, man. He's the real thing.
Yeah, another one of those organic guys for sure. I guess you could have to put him in that vein for sure, because taking everything vintage, you know, even though we've got all this technology available to us, he's going back, you know, and especially what he's trying to do with vinyl and things like that, preserve. You know, I love that.
Yeah. I definitely pay attention to what Jack's doing, just like I do an artist like Beck. Mm-hmm. You know, those guys they just think differently. And, you know, they're using traditional influences, but, you know, molding it into something new for now and for the future. So
I agree.
Yeah, really inspired by those guys.
There's a couple questions in the chat, and I think I know the answer to this. They were asking if you had a couple of those guitars, but you're not actually at your home at the moment, right? Or you're somewhere else and you don't have your guitar.
No, I'm actually at my dad's house. Okay. He lives over just east of Atlanta in Millersville, Georgia. So I came to visit him this weekend because I hadn't seen him in a while. So no, I'm actually hanging out in his office. I do think, man, I could probably get him to dig out he's got an old Gibson acoustic that was, you know, my first memory of any guitar ever.
Oh, very cool.
I don't think anyone's ever seen that, man. I'll go ask him in a minute, see if he can pull that out.
No problem. And there's another question. Yeah, that'd be good. We'd love to see that. That'd be
I'd love to share that with you guys, man. Nobody's ever seen that. That would be cool.
That'd be very awesome. Well, speaking of some exclusives like that too, and you were just mentioning about Kramer, which I kind of went, my ears perked up when I heard that too, because I started on a lot of Kramers as well too. Well, after NAMM, we had a really cool experience. We got to go hang out and stay as guests at Gary Kramer's place for 3 days. And
wow.
Yeah, he gave us the whole, like we did a documentary on him. We did a 2-day shoot, and we got to play like the original. Junior and I were the only 2 people on planet Earth that played the #1 bass off the line. Like they started their serial numbers with 10. So, you know, 2000 and 10. So that was the first one. Then they went, I guess, I'm not sure if they went 20, 30, or they went up in increments of ones. But he told us the story. He says, you and your son are the only 2 people on this earth that have played that bass. And of course,
wow, man,
all the Travis Bean guitars and then every model of Kramer after, and Gary Kramer's own guitars. It was like, for a Kramer fan and a guitar fan, it was just like, it was very hard to keep composure. And by doing this little internet show for 3 years, I've eventually been able to kind of turn down the fanboy. But it's so funny. Gary Kramer and I were texting back and forth last night. He thought I did 2 parts, and he says he was sending me some wine footage. We're going to make a video of some of his vineyard stuff he has. And he goes, maybe you can use this to go as parts 3 and 4. And I said, oh, I don't have any more footage. I said, what we have out there is what we have out there. There's 2 parts. And he goes, oh, but, you know, he drove us all through his vineyards, sprawling estate with one of those, you know, quad things, whatever. And I had my GoPro up on the roof to take, you know, panoramics. And he goes, but you had your GoPro. I said, well, sir, and I still say, sir, I forgot to hit record. I literally forgot to hit record on the
Oh
GoPro.
no. Oh no,
And
man.
he's as much of a rock star as you're a rock star and all these other rock stars out there. He doesn't play a note, but he's a rock star. And so you notice like sometimes you can just kind of be like, you're off your game. And I was off my game on that part. So it was
Wow,
fun.
man.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. What a cool experience.
It was cool.
Wow. Well, yeah, man, for all of us that were playing guitar in, 1983 and 84, Eddie really ramped up his association with Kramer.
Yeah.
And I just remember walking in the guitar store one day, and there he was basically wearing the same clothes he had on in the Hot for Teacher video. But, he was holding there was a Beretta, and then there was what was the other model he played?
Pacer?
Yeah. The Pacer. Yep. Thank you. And so there was no more discussion. Like, I have to have one.
Yeah.
I mean, like thousands of other guys, so, yeah, man, I'll never forget. As a matter of fact, my dad has a picture hanging on the wall. I'm going to show you that right now.
Okay.
Eric, check this out. This was my, tell me if you can see this. That's a shot of me playing the clubs.
Bring it over just to the left a bit.
Let me see if can you see that?
Opposite way. So I see a note. I see
this way. Yeah,
there
we go.
Got it.
Thanks. So check that out, bro.
There's
me.
Badass.
Yeah, that's like 1985, I think. So wild that I'm talking to you about this, and because I don't even have a photo of me playing that at my own house. So
you have to take a snapshot of it, maybe, or maybe you could scan it. You could scan it from your dad and then make a nice reprint of it. Yeah,
I will, man. But yeah, I was the Van Halen guy for a long time. I just remember like friends from school. They would have parties and. I mean, we all knew someone like me, like, oh, you got to hear this guy. He can play Eruption and he can play the solo and I'm on Fire and he can do Dance the Night Away, And man, it gave me currency. It gave me like a social life.
Sure.
I was the Van Halen guy.
Yeah.
And I was proud of that. So yeah, man. So I played those Kramers all throughout the mid to late 80s. And, but I had an amazing experience, Eric. In 1989, I went to Memphis to join a band called the Delta Rebels.
Okay.
And the singer in the Delta Rebels was a guy named R.T. Scott, who was a colorful character himself, like a cross between Bon Scott and Ronnie Van Zant.
Oh, wow.
And, maybe a little David Lee Roth, just because he was so boisterous,
Sure.
But looked like a biker, dressed like a biker, that kind of thing. Well, man, the other guitar player in that band was a guy named Eddie Shaver. And Eddie Shaver's dad was, outlaw red dirt country legend Billy Joe Shaver. And Eddie had grown up in Texas, with his dad, and had this Stratocaster, I think, that Dickie Betts gave him. And, I'll spare you all the details, but I heard that guy play one note and it changed my life. Like, changed my life. And like in that moment, because I think I was in that same place a lot of other players were in the late 80s. You'd grown up on Van Halen and Randy Rhoads. Stevie Ray Vaughan had hit, which was big for me. Mm-hmm. But then Yngwie came on the scene, and it was this whole other level of technical ability that I loved it and was impressed. And, but I just couldn't get my head around that whole sweep picking thing and, mm-hmm. Classical influences. It just wasn't for me. So when I was in the Delta Rebels and met Eddie Shaver, I got to tell you, man, I put those Floyd Roses away, and I don't think I touched them again, maybe until I recorded my EP in 2016, because Eddie played a Stratocaster. I mean, the real thing. You can Google Eddie. All your listeners and people that are online right now, man. go to Google or YouTube and look up Eddie Shaver. You spell it with a Y.
Okay.
Eddy. Eddie played guitar for Dwight Yoakam for a little while as well, but Eddie was an outer worldly, like Stevie Ray and Jeff Beck rolled into one, and so it just changed my life. So that was sort of, like I say, man, that was kind of the end of the Floyd Rose for me. Like in that moment,
right,
you know, it was like, okay, that's what it's all about. What I'm doing is maybe not what it's all about.
Yep, I agree with that.
That, you know, and it was a seismic event for me. And so, yeah, and no surprise, man, a year later, I put my own band together back home in Alabama that would ultimately become Brother Kane. So that's how big that inspiration was for me.
Well, I think sometimes us as guitar players, once we find out that we're going to be guitar players, I mean, we don't know we're going to be guitar players when we're born. It hits us at one point in our lives. But I think maybe there's a little bit of this DNA in all of us. Maybe there's like the neoclassical stuff like the Yngwie Malmsteens. Maybe it's a little thing there. We just have to know how to turn it on. And some of us, in your case, also in my case, I couldn't do it either. I couldn't flick that switch and turn on that light. There was a burnout bulb and it just wouldn't activate. And also, yeah.
Yeah, man. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's all good.
I just want to say, you know, I have some great friends that they loved all the same stuff I did, but then they did get their head around Yngwie and all of that, like Richard Fortas that plays in GNR, monster player, and he can play all that stuff, man. Richie Faulkner, that's in Judas Priest. I love Richie and his playing. You know, both those guys, man, they can do all that stuff, and it's almost kind of seamless for them. They make it look easy, and I'm just in awe whenever I'm hanging out with them and I get to watch them play. So I definitely I'm really comfortable, man, being a little more of the slow hand guy.
Yep.
You know, I love my moments where there'll be a burst, you know, a flurry of notes, but it has to be kind of pulled out of me. Working with my great producer friend Nick Raskulinix, who lives in Nashville as well as I do. He's really been made an impact on me, because, you know, he'd hear me warming up and he'd be like, "Hey man, you can shred." And I'm like, "No." He's like, "No, on this next pass, I want you to shred." And I can show you moments, man, like on my EP, on the Black Star Rider stuff. You know, that was totally Nick pushing me. He's like, "Come on, dude, you can burn. Let me hear you eat it up for a second." So it's fun to play like that. It's just not necessarily what I sit around at home.
No, of course. It's nice to have a producer, though. That shows a good producer, because a bad producer can say, "Okay, great, good job. Okay, let's go next," and took you out of your comfort zone and forced you to do something.
Yeah, it totally did, man. And the results, I could feel it. Like, I'm like, you know what? He was totally right. Yeah. That song or that moment needed that kind of explosion of notes. Because, hey, man, I love Edward. I love Gary Moore. Mm-hmm. Fiery players, man. There's a lick that Gary does that I've been trying to figure out, man, for 25 years, and I still can't play it right. And it's, you know, wow, man. You know, if I had a little more of that technique, maybe I'd play like that a little more.
I haven't heard the riff that you're talking about, of course, yet, but I'll bet you, I'm willing to bet that you probably look at moments like that, and you might, because the producer coaxed you, pushed you, and took you out of the comfort zone. I bet you might look back and say, "That's better than what I can play." Like, you get that. I talk about this a lot, where sometimes you play better than your human talents allow you to. Did something happen that day? And maybe that was that case. No question about it, Eric. I played beyond my skill level a couple of times, you know, and you know, to see that smile on Nick's face and the other guys in the band, you know, they have Scott Gorham sitting over there on the couch going, "Damn, bud, you just ripped that, man. That was great." And I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but yeah, it sounded pretty good. That's cool. And you share that. You know, it's a magical moment for everybody. And connected by the producer, and then all through everybody. There's a couple cool questions. I got them texted to me. They were from the chat, and I didn't see them. So one of them was from David McCain, says, and this is a tough one. This is like, oh boy. David McCain says, if you could have lessons from one guy, Steve Lukather or Eddie Van Halen, who are both friends, obviously, who would you pick? Oh, so hard, man. I know. I would have to say, I'm sorry. I love Steve Lukather as well too, but I'd have to go Eddie for me. I would, but it's not for me. It's not for me. That's so hard because who asked that question? David McCain. David.
Well done, my friend. Well done. I have to say you got me on that one because
they're both so good.
There's so many moments of specific things Eddie has played that I would love to say, hey man, can you show me how to play this? Can we go to the guitar solo in So This Is Love and show me, how you do that run when you come off that highest note? Where did you position your hand to pull off that, that next thing? However, also Lukather, man, deep love for Steve because Steve can almost play anything.
He can.
He can take the simplest like 4 or 5 chord pop song and just bring something to that. Like I think I'd want to know more about how Eddie pulls off things technically, like how he plays something. But I want to know how Steve's brain works. Like, hey man, what are you thinking right there? Like that chord, the bridge of this song goes to this chord, and you played something that would have never occurred to me to even think about playing. Steve's got a little of that jazz fusion thing in there too. There's a couple of little notes that he'll sprinkle that just knock me out, man. Really, they're kind of similar, man. Both Lukather and Edward. I hear those guys play solos, and I just start laughing. They just crack me up.
I know.
I'm like, man, those guys are crazy. How do they even come up with that? I love them both so much.
Would you agree with this? A little analogy, and I've never said this about Steve Lukather, but I'll put him in the same boat as Eddie for this, because I feel like they're both driving this Formula One race car that is at the brink of exploding or crashing into a wall. If you or I got, and I won't say you because you're a better guitar player than me, but if the average person getting into these Ferraris and we're at the same control that they are, we're going to crash and die. But they pull it off at the crisp of destruction, or maybe I'll make it easier. Maybe the sound of their amp's going to blow up or whatever, but they pull it off with style. I find that the same with both of those guys. Yeah,
you've heard it. You've heard Eddie say in interviews, he describes himself as like, falling down a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
That's what his playing is like. And definitely that analogy with Lukather, man. There's some things he plays where it's literally like he's in some hot Italian sports car with it just gunned. And it's a flurry of notes that just like you can't even. Hey, man, Jeff Beck said Steve Lukather's the greatest guitar player of all time. So last time I checked, Beck is God. So
yep, that's good. That's good to hear for sure.
Don't ask me. Ask Jeff Beck.
And that's the thing too. That's a great analogy as the falling down the stairs, because I always say that when I'm trying to, share lessons on my channel. If I'm playing Eruption, which I've been doing it for 35 years, still not even close to being right. But the outro part of it, when you're tapping down, it is. I always say it's like you're falling down the stairs, and you're probably gonna fall down the stairs on that part. But here's what you got to do is you just got to pick your stair you're going to land on. And the first time you might fall all the way down and hit your collarbone and break your collarbone at the bottom stair, or you might pick yourself up on the third stair. Just pick your exit. You're going to mess it up. It may be, find your exit.
What a great description of Eddie's playing. I talked about this a lot with my great friend, my bass player buddy, Robbie Crane. Robbie was born in Hollywood, and he grew up around all those kind of 80s bands, but he worshiped Van Halen. And we talk so much about Eddie's right hand.
Oh, yeah.
The feel that guy has, the pocket that he plays in. It's kind of unmatched. I don't know. He just as a rhythm guitar player, man. Eddie's just as dazzling and special and Mount Rushmore for his rhythm playing as he is all the badass pyrotechnic lead playing. And he's just the total package, man. And that's why he totally deserves that great compliment that Zappa gave him. When he thanked him for reinventing the guitar, because he totally did.
He sure did.
He reinvented the electric guitar, and those tremors are being felt to this very day,
Agreed.
So
and speaking of which, you ever try playing a guitar like this, but holding it this way like he does?
Yeah, I have.
Can you do it?
If I kind of get my speed up, You know, I can do the trill like Eddie does. I
Yep.
just can't do it as consistently as he does.
I can't do anything holding the pick like that. I just can't. I tried because, you know, trying to copy him, right? I just can't do it. I have to hold it, you know, kind of semi-traditionally, I guess.
Yeah, man. You know, I'll probably listen to those Van Halen records, you know, until the day I die.
Mm-hmm.
They're just such a great reference point for me. You know, I was so inspired by just the energy that the whole band played those songs, and certainly when I got to see them live, you know, it was life changing, totally life changing. So I just think it's important for me as a songwriter, as an entertainer, certainly as a guitar player, that I never go very long without revisiting that influence and that sound. It was just such impact. It was impact. It was like an explosion, man. The way that guy plays, the way they would deliver those songs, it just changed my life. And you know, listen, man, I grew up on a farm, Eric. I'm talking rural, out in the middle of nowhere.
Same here, actually.
And all you had, man, was sports and music and girls, and that was it, man.
Yeah.
So, you know, Eddie just, you know, it really fed my dreams. It's like, wow, man. It wasn't like, oh, if I could just get out of here. It wasn't like that. It was just like, wow, man, what if I could make a living playing the guitar like that guy, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, my dream came true, man. I've raised 5 kids, and you know, like, that's all I've done my whole professional life. And I'm not one of those guys that goes, well, you know, it's all I can do.
Yeah.
No, I can do lots of other stuff, man. I was going to college and I was going to get an engineering degree.
But you chose this.
Yeah, man. Oh, and I feel like it kind of chose me.
Yeah,
like
it's really good.
I was sort of headed in another direction as far as my school work, and you know, I was going to get a straight job and just maybe play music on the weekends for fun. And music just kept guiding my life and steering me. So Eddie Van Halen has so much. He's responsible for so much of that for me, and I mean that sincerely, man. The guy was just life changing.
That's beautiful to hear, and we share a similar thing in common because I grew up in a very rural community. You know, your closest neighbor was a quarter of a mile away. You know, so that's as rural gets. And Van Halen impacted me greatly as well too, because you know, we didn't have the internet and things like that. Like, so you go out and play with a stick, or you light stuff on fire in the backyard, you know, whatever, right? I mean, we needed some entertainment. But if I hadn't been for Van Halen, I remember these days, and that's how actually my better half and I are together today. You know, I used to bring my mom and dad's 8-track player as a portable 8-track player. And it was like, it was kind of bad because it was an 8-track player, because I was kind of laughed at for that, where cassettes were just coming out. But nonetheless, it was loud. So I had 8-track on there. I'd walk on the bus wearing a Van Halen jersey and a crazy permed hair or whatever. And I
had that too.
Did you?
Me too.
Yeah.
I had that.
So we got in trouble. I won't share the whole story of how it happened. Yeah, that's a story for another day. But the better half here and I, we got in trouble on the bus, and our punishment, we didn't really like each other. And we got forced to sit at the front of the bus together for the entire season of school. And eventually, you know, when you hate each other, and eventually now you're cellmates or whatever you want to call it. Right?
Wow.
So Van Halen had a lot to do with that.
From cellmates to soulmates.
Hey, I love that.
I like that.
That's good.
Hey, Eric, if you're cool, man, I'm gonna yell at my dad and see if he'll go get that acoustic guitar.
Perfect.
I would love to share that with you and your viewers for the first time ever, man.
Perfect. Why don't you go do that, and I'll read through the chat, and I'll say hi to some more.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for waiting for the chat. You know, I'm very bad at the chat here. Brian Cote is here. Dolores Fisher, Ryan Adams. Hey, Damon. Thanks for getting me jam with BSR at Soundcheck last April in St. Louis. Very, very cool. That's nice that you got to do that. Scott Roos says, I love hearing stories of a father passing on the torch or guitar to the next generation. Agreed for sure. I can't wait to see this guitar. Gary Holt, my Crusader Deluxe 2006 model that Gary Kramer got me. And I love that guitar, by the way, too, Gary. Very, very nice. I got to see it at your house. Brad Miller says, every time I hear about stolen guitars, I cry. I had 2 different 65 Melody Makers that were stolen about 20 years apart. That's horrific. Mr. Hellstorm 74, Damon, come back to Kingsport, Tennessee. Some more links from Nocturnal Butterfly. Scott Roos, the only Gibson I've ever owned and still have is an SG. Very nice. Oh, here we go. Do we have it?
It's on its way.
Okay, good.
Yeah, my dad and my stepmom, they just went to retrieve it out of.
Oh, that's gonna be great.
Out of his other office back there. Yeah, man. You know, I think even though my dad had that electric that we were talking about earlier, that 330, that thing just kind of stayed in the case in the closet. But this acoustic guitar I'm about to show you was always around. You know, my dad would play it every weekend, and he would have some friends over, and like they'd sit around and play Merle Haggard songs
Beautiful.
or Glenn Campbell songs, and you know, like rockabilly stuff. You know, Eddie Cochran, things like that. So it was, you know, this guitar is like, it's been in my memories my whole life.
That's amazing. Yeah, very indebted to it for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'll tell you about that. Thanks. So
thank you so much for that.
Check it out, man.
Oh,
check
wow.
this out. This, you know, this is probably an early 60s Gibson. He's got the tension off the neck, because you know, off the strings, because he hasn't been playing it. But you can see what kind of you know, super vintage, and I forget the model number. I think they call this an 001.
Okay.
It was the model number of it. I know it's kind of hard to see it. Here.
What do you think of that guitar, Hack?
I would be remiss if I didn't show you these little marks right here. Can you see?
Bring it down a little bit. I saw them. Yeah, I see them there.
Yeah, see them right there on my fingertips. So my dad loves to tell this story as he was sitting around with his buddies playing the guitar one time, and I was like 1 year old, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 1. And trying to get, you know, wanting to reach up and touch the guitar, like, give me the guitar.
Sure.
Is how he tells the story. So when he would not acquiesce and give me the guitar, those are my teeth marks, Eric. I bit the guitar out of anger that he would not give it to me.
Oh, man.
Now, how priceless is that story?
Oh, it's priceless. Yeah.
Who else are you going to have on here that can tell a story like that, bro?
Nobody, but I can see it. I can picture it. I can picture that determination, because I've seen, you know, I've got kids. I've seen them do some crazy things out of, you know, like, okay, I'll show you, you know, but that is awesome. So
yeah, man,
you cut your teeth on, you cut your teeth on guitar.
I literally cut my teeth.
I love it.
Well, I appreciate you letting me share that with
that's a treat. That's I got to tone down the goosebumps, and I know a lot of people are feeling that as well too. It's very emotional. You know, that really can kind of paints a story. And speaking of painting a story, in just a couple moments, because we're past the 10 o'clock hour now, I want to make sure we talk about the most important thing today. Well, that story of your life and your dad and everything like that is the most important. I'm sure you'll agree with your record being second. So we'll get into the record in a moment. But there's a question from, just beautiful stories. Rich Stellman says, question, please. Ask Damon about the Damn Yankees album he wrote and recorded that didn't get released. No, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, man. 2000, Brother Kane had ended. I was writing some songs, not sure what I was going to do with them. Maybe put out a solo record, maybe. But I was really so frustrated with the business. I pretty much, I can tell you that probably wasn't going to happen. So the Damn Yankees were about to make a third album. They had the green light from Columbia Records. Their A&R guy was the legendary John Kolodner. Okay. And you remember Kolodner from all those videos, man, in the 90s, the Aerosmith videos and so many others. Kolodner had heard those songs that I just mentioned. He had gotten a tape of these ideas because he asked for them. You know, he asked what I was doing. Well, he winds up playing them for Jack Blades. And then Jack and John Kolodner called me one day to say, hey, Tommy Shaw has just acquired the rights to the name Styx. They had just parted ways with Dennis DeYoung. So Tommy and JY were needing to go out and kind of resurrect the band with their new band members and all of that. So Tommy had given them his blessing to bring in someone else to make the Damn Yankees record. And Tommy had already co-written a few songs, and those would be a part of it, et cetera, et cetera. I go to Santa Rosa, California, where Jack lived, where the whole band was rehearsing. Ted Nugent was already really familiar with me because we had played dates with him and Brother Kane. He was a huge supporter of not just Brother Kane, but of me and my songwriting and my singing and guitar playing, all that stuff. So yeah, man, we spent about 3 months together all total. We wrote some more songs. We went in the studio and tracked everything. And kind of the not so sexy end of the story is like we got the mixes back, and I think everyone was kind of underwhelmed.
Oh.
You know, everybody got them, and it was just like, well, okay, well, this is good, but is it great? And if you're having to ask yourself, is it great? It's probably not great.
No, you feel it before there's any consensus in the room. You'd all feel it unanimously.
Yeah. So that was kind of it. And by that point in time, you know, the guys everybody was starting to ramp up their other activities. You know, Ted had to go back and be Ted Nugent, and Jack had Night Ranger commitments, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, man, it was a great experience for me. I run into all those guys from time to time, and it's always a good hang and, hey, how you doing? And, you know, no ill will, nothing like that, man. It just didn't come together. And, you know, really, man, that's their band. You know, Damn Yankees is Jack and Tommy and Ted's band. So, you know, if they ever want that stuff to come out, that's totally up to them. They probably won't, because I don't know that, you know, to put out that stuff now, it's like you're going to need to promote it. And everybody's busy.
Yeah, I look at that as integrity. I really do. I think that's integrity on all you guys' parts. The fact that, you know, some bands could say, you know what, it's not our best, but let's slip it out. We'll get a couple bucks. We'll sell some merch and some, you know, blah, blah, blah. But you didn't. Yeah,
we didn't, man. Yep. And, you know, definitely several things that I loved on there. There's a song that Jack and I wrote that he wound up putting on a solo record of his called We Are the Ones. Really cool song. And then there was a song that we wrote with Ted that he put on a solo record. And, you know, some of those songs have turned up in other places. So, yeah. That's the Damn Yankee story. Tell your guy thanks for asking.
Okay, well,
cool.
Good question. And there's a question from Ryan Adams. He says, question for Damon. I see you're doing VIP signings at your solo shows. Any chance of the super VIP for a chance to jam at a tune at Soundcheck again?
Wow. I've not considered that. That's wow, man, what a great idea. You know, that's not out of the question.
This has to be,
you know, this whole kind of season right now is me truly ramping up my solo performing career properly, you know, for the first time ever, really. So, you know, maybe down the road, that's something we could get into. I know we did that in Black Star Riders. We had a mega VIP thing, man, where the fans could literally jam a song, you know, with the band.
That's pretty cool.
And, maybe we can do that, man. That's fun.
Yeah.
And I'd have to probably polish up on some other songs that I haven't played in a long time, because that happened with the BSR stuff. You know, somebody would come in with some obscure Thin Lizzy song, and we'd have to figure it out.
Oh yeah, quickly. Yeah. Well, not that I'm suggesting for the fan side of this. We talked about Kiss earlier. Kiss had, and not that I'd say you'd want to copy Kiss's thing here, but their super VIP is like $6,500, $6,500, and they'll let you like walk around in jeans boots. You get to hold jeans bass. My buddy did it. You get to hold the Iceman guitar. And you get dinner and all that kind of stuff with him as well too. But $6,500. So if you're going with your significant better half, that's a big ticket.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big ticket. Well, hey man,
more power to them. It's their farewell too, right? Or the end of the road.
More power to any of these acts, man. It's like, you know, you and me, Eric, and everyone watching and you know, texting online, whatever. You know, I just feel like we all came up at the greatest time in music. Just the greatest time ever. And then there'll never be another time like that.
No.
And so, you know, as we get older, and everybody enjoys looking back and thinking about, you know, the impact, just like we've been talking about Van Halen, man. You know, well, I get goosebumps as well thinking about that stuff. So, you know, more power to all these bands.
I agree.
You know, I'm just grateful, man, for my fans and, you know, everything around this album. There's a newness to it. Even though I've recorded solo stuff before, it's never had this investment, shall we say. This, not just an emotional investment, but a really focused kind of plan. You know, we're going after this, man. We're playing coast to coast, and more dates are coming in, and you know, I think I'm going to be busier in 2019 than I bargained for in the beginning.
And
so
that's a good thing, though. That is a good thing. And let's do this. Let's take the last 20 minutes of the show here, and let's kind of paint a picture for the fans. So you were doing an incredible tour with Black Star there in 2018, last year, I guess, with Judas Priest, whatever. And coming off of that, you're kind of like, okay, well, where am I going here with my career, whatever? Why don't you paint that picture, and let's go right through the record, what led up to it, and where we are now with it.
Yeah, you know, man, I want to make sure. It's almost like I want to give this qualification at the front end. It's like I have so much love and respect for all my brothers in Black Star Riders. You know, I was a part of that thing for 6 years. We made 3 quality albums, and we worked a lot, man. You know, we really, it was everyone's #1 priority. We were definitely making an impact across the pond in the UK, in Scandinavia, Germany, you know, other parts of Europe. But I was just spending so much time in another country. And, you know, when you're running a business like that, it's not necessarily cost effective to be flying back and forth. If you're going to get everybody on the plane and bring them over and book a bunch of dates, we treated every tour, Eric, like, well, let's book 5 weeks worth. Let's book 7 weeks worth of dates.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, man, I've been doing this a long time. And, you know, I got respect for any musician, man, that goes out and takes it to the streets and takes it to the fans. And that's just what it takes, man. You know, you got to tour. That's your job, to be an entertainer. So I just felt like I had reached a point in my musical life, in my personal life, you know, with my family, that I just didn't want to do those long tours anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the other guys deserve to do whatever they want, man. And, you know, the guys still want to kind of go after it. You know, they want to go to South America and build a fan base there, and, you know, maybe Australia. And, you know, that's exactly what they should do, because it's their lives as well.
Yep.
So I could really feel that I was starting to maybe be an impediment for that. Because I was definitely the guy that would always raise his hand when the email would come in with all the tour dates. I'd be like, hang on, guys, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Does it have to be 6 weeks? Can we do 2 weeks and come home for a week? And it would just, you know, it just never worked out like that.
Logistics,
so,
yeah.
You know, the Judas Priest tour was big because we did, man. That's what we all wanted, is an opportunity to play in North America. No better platform than to be out there with our friends, legends.
Yeah.
Rob Halford, Glenn Tipton, you know, Ian Hill. And we love Richie and we love Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was the perfect place for us. And I don't know, for lack of a better description, Eric, I just felt like I woke up one morning on the tour bus and I says, you know what, I feel like I've done this long enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting on this new record. You know, I had the songs. It wasn't completed yet. The writing was done, and some of the recording, a good bit of it was done. You know, and I talked it over with my family, and I said, hey, maybe this is the time. Maybe why don't I go be Damon Johnson? I can revisit all this music from my career, from my resume, write some new stuff. I got a good record right now to kind of launch it with. And so that's exactly what happened, man. That's what we did, and that's what we're doing. And so far, we're having a great time, man.
Well, I told you off the air as well, too. This is very hard. I don't want to jump the gun and say I don't want to judge off of one song, but I haven't heard your whole record. I just have heard the single, and I've played the video over and over and over again, shivering. I had it just wailing here with my nice monitors in here when I was writing the script for the show.
Awesome.
And I was loving it. And
Thank you.
I'd like to say this, and here again, I'm not fanboying or anything like that, but I think it could potentially be, you know, like I don't know your whole career. I know, like, you know, I'm not the factual fan and have all the dates and all that kind of stuff, but I know enough about you that I know what you were good at. And I think this could be one of the best things you've ever done. I know it's early to say, but I'm feeling it. I think it is a very, very good song. It's fresh. We really need that. Like I like that band Greta Van Fleet. They're getting a lot of heat because, you know, they sound like Zeppelin and stuff like that. I think they came in at a time where we need some fresh rock, but your music is very, very, very fresh. You know, you could go crazy by shredding. You know when not to play. The vocals and the damn hook at the song, whether you like it, love it, or hate it, it just is stuck in your head all day long, and that's a good song.
Well, thank you very much, Eric. And you know, I feel like the music I'm making is new music with a classic sound. You know, I'm still kind of treating my songs sonically the same way we did in Brother Kane. You know, there weren't a lot of bells and whistles, man. We were just guys writing some songs and firing them up through amps and drums and lay it down, man. You know, we tried to get good tones out of the amps and make the drums tune great and just good, pure sounds, nothing mechanical or synthesized or whatever. Nothing against bands that do that, man. Right. We just, you know, I've definitely worn my influences on my sleeve my whole life. So what I can tell you about this record, I don't know if it's the best thing I've ever done, but it's the purest thing I've ever done. Every song I love. There's not one song that's on there is filler. Like, you know, we need one more song. Let's throw this on there.
Yeah.
None of that, man. Every lyric I put through the deepest microscope and had so much fun, man. I collaborated with a great longtime friend of mine, Jim Troglin. We wrote those songs together.
Okay.
And, you know, I really fed off of his, like he was kind of blown away that I was so focused and had so much to say and had kind of a clear vision for what I wanted this to be. So, you know, he definitely played a huge role, not only in the creating, but just in kind of pushing me forward. Like, yeah, bro, let's do it. You're doing it. Everything that you're saying could happen, it's already happening. You got it all right there in front of you. So, you know, I'm appreciative to him for that support. Certainly my wife, she's just been amazing, man.
That's important for sure. The support at home.
I think she said herself, you know, she goes, it's so awesome to be upstairs doing the domestic thing and I can hear you downstairs singing or you're playing a guitar solo or, you know, working on this stuff. I did a lot of the overdubs and stuff at my house, Eric. It was great, man. You know, I produced this record myself. You know, I mean, it's a huge jet fuel going forward for you or anyone to say, hey, man, this might be the best thing you've ever done. I produced this record myself. You know, I made this record like Prince did records. You know, I just sat there and worked on it until I felt like, hey, I really like this. This is good. I think we've gotten it to the right place. So I kind of see that as the way forward, man. I'd like to continue down that avenue into the future.
Oh, I love the story of your wife being upstairs. I can just picture her being music to her ears, you know, my baby's home, you know, and doing finally doing the, you know, no restraints. Not that you're necessarily, you know, restrained before from doing things. You have creative freedom, but you get to do what you want to do. You're going to be closer to home all the time. And I know you're doing dates and you're back home. But actually there is a good question. Speaking about the tone in the studio, Brandon Hastings says, what's Damon's secret to tone? It's got to be the best I've heard, so thick and tight and focused. Do you take any mental approach to when you play guitar and when you record? Is it just don't think about it and it'll happen?
No, man. Brandon, thank you for that, buddy. It's funny, man. I read our boy Eddie Van Halen talking about recording guitars. He's like, look, man, take an SM57, put it on the cone of the speaker. If you don't like the sound that's going to tape, move the microphone.
Okay.
But if you've got the right guitar, the right amp, the right speaker, an SM57 will make all your dreams come true. Yeah, there's, you know, you can get other mics and
ribbons
fancier
and
mics and, you know, but it's just a tried and true thing, man. And, you know, for anybody that has said the nice things they have about like those Brother Kane records, that's all that was, man.
Really?
My old 100-watt Marshall, a beat up 412 cabinet with 25-watt Celestians in it, an SM57, and that wine red Les Paul Custom that I bought when I was a junior in high school. And that's it. Wow. No pedals, no nothing, man.
There you go, kids. That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, there you go. There you go. Move the mic around, and that's it.
Yeah.
And speaking of some of these the hot players like the Eddie Van Halens and some of the players you've had the pleasure of either playing with, touring with, whatever, I noticed one thing that really caught my eye. I was looking at your tour itinerary, and you're touring with a band. I've had two of the three. I've had Mike Portnoy and Billy Sheehan on the show. You're touring with the Winery Dogs. That's got to be fun.
Great. Yeah, man. Just world-class musicians on every instrument. We've crossed paths a couple times when I was with Black Star Riders, and man, I'm really looking forward to that. I just feel like it'll be a lot of fun for us to get in front of their crowd and play some of our stuff. And there's no question, man, that anybody that's a fan of the Winery Dogs is going to hear Damon Johnson play and recognize some songs, and they're going to dig some of the new songs as well. So happy that worked out, that we could play with them. Plus, there are all the dates are in cities in the Midwest that were always great for Brother Kane: Milwaukee, Chicago. We're playing a show in Nashville, in my new hometown, which is going to be great. So, yeah, man, really looking forward to that. And no doubt, man, I'm gonna be getting a guitar clinic from Kotzen every night, man. That guy's just one of the all-time greats. Really a tremendous player.
One thing I can see your wife probably saying is, don't learn any habits from Mike Portnoy and be wanting to join 27 bands. That guy is so busy, eh? I mean, he's like Neil Morse, and I mean, it's all over the place. There's so many. Apollo.
No, the one question I'm going to have for Mike, and I am going to ask him, I'm say, brother, how do you keep your marriage together?
I don't know.
Because he does.
I know they got a good unit. Good unit.
He's like family man, great, beautiful wife and kids, and in this age of social media, it's like that's what you do, and obviously, man, he's doing it all right. I'm sure he's a pretty shrewd businessman. He doesn't have any time to waste, so he's not going to waste time.
That's right. And the thing is, maybe he's doing it now because he knows there's going to come a time when him and the wife can retire and do whatever they want to do. And I don't think he's ever going to slow down. But I mean, do it now. It's working. I think we would all be a little bit more judgmental if you were hearing all these horror stories on the road, horrific family life, and that kind of stuff. So if it's working, like you say, why fix a wheel that's not broke?
Well, you never know, man. We talk a lot about artists like McCartney and Sting. Talk about guys that could retire. They're doing what they love, man. They're doing what they've always loved. And, I love their workman-like approach to it. Hey, I've got my band, I got my team, my organization. Let's go out and play some music, make people happy. We'll feed all of these people in my band and crew and take care of their families. And, wow, what a gracious way to live, man. That's the dream, I think, for any of us. That should be the dream for any of us, is to just be able to build our music and our little business up to the point to where it's working and it's productive, and you're creating art, but you're entertaining entertaining and you're performing. Yeah. And hey man, I still got 2 kids to get through college, so we need this solo thing to work out, Eric.
That's right. Well, certainly. I know there's a lot of people pushing for you. There's a really, really cool article I read on you, an interview. And it goes to attest to your the way you look at life. And first of all, I think you've got to be one of the most down-to-earth, grounded musicians, that I've ever spoke to. But I think it was Vintage Guitar Magazine, or I think it was Vintage Guitar. And it was one of the very last questions, and they, asked about success or something like that. I forget what the question was, but you said, look, I'm still the guy that puts his amp in the car on the weekends. I don't have like the millions and millions and millions of dollars. But I've been able to put food on the table for the kids and provide a life. I mean, what else could one ask for?
No, man, that's success.
Yeah.
My mom is so cute. I mean, to this day, she still says, son, I just want all the success in the world for you. And I say the same thing. I go, Mom, I am a success.
Yeah.
It's all happened.
Yes.
It's happening every day. I've done nothing in my adult life but play my guitar and write songs and get on stage and rock out. Hey man, that's the greatest life. It is the life I dreamt of as a kid.
Agreed.
And it's happened, and it's happening. And I'm just, I'm the luckiest girl at the dance, brother. I'm just really, really proud. And man, I'm proud of the songs. I'm proud to say that I don't think I've written too many stupid lyrics or said dumb things in interviews. I feel like I've tried to conduct myself, with some amount of authenticity. And so, all of that is informing this moment of now being a solo artist full time. And that we definitely set the table for it, and the time is definitely now. And so this is just, it's so great to talk to you, Eric, and be a part of this, man. I love the work that you're doing, and I know this is fulfilling for you to have this show and your platform, and all the best to you, man. Continued success, and a lot of gratitude to the people that have joined tonight and been listening and texting. This has been incredible.
Well, thank you. It's a real pleasure for sure. And I think someone just did a super chat. I didn't see who that was. Let me see if I can catch that real quick. Someone donated some money, and Stephen asked $2. Great show. A little something for the tip jar. Thank you so very much. That's great. I appreciate that, Stephen. That's awesome. Here, before we go, I want to ask you a question. Every once in a while, like a hater will crawl through the woodwork and they'll say something like, well, you're a mama's boy. Because my mom was saying the same thing as well, too. My mom pushed me to do music. Well, she didn't push me, but when I did it, she embraced it with her heart. My dad was maybe not so much until he got near his, later years before he passed away, then he kind of accepted it. But my mom was the catalyst to me playing guitar. So if people come up to you or I and say, well, you're a mama's boy, I say to them, come back to me when you have an insult, because being called a mama's boy is not an insult.
Hey, man. Yeah. We kind of started this whole thing off about, how fortunate I was to grow up in a musical house. My mom, she's a great singer to this day. That's great. She'll be 80 years old this year. My dad still plays guitar. And so I was really fortunate, man, because I couldn't measure it then like I can now. I had these extra tools in my musical bag that I think gave me extra progress, a little faster in my early years. And it was priceless, man. It really helped me. So I'm grateful for their encouragement to this day.
Yeah, and I'm really happy for you that they're still here with you. At this point in your life, because I've lost both of mine. I'll share a funny story with you that you may appreciate. How much our parents care for us. My dad is my mom. We lost my mom first, and my dad passed later in life. But as my dad was getting older and he was getting dementia, he knew how much I loved Eddie Van Halen. But when he started to lose his brain power, he confused Bruce Springsteen with Eddie Van Halen. So he would clip out an article, and he'd call me up from the retirement home. Hey, Eric, I've got another article for you. And I used to say, Dad, that's not Eddie Van Halen, that's Bruce Springsteen. And I'd be saying it so much that it got to be too much. So I would just stop saying it. I'd go collect them. So needless to say, at one time, I had the world's largest newspaper collection of Bruce Springsteen articles.
Yeah, that's priceless, man. That's what a great story.
Yeah, parents are the best.
Story.
They're the
well,
best.
You reminded me, before we go, I have to tell you my other big, important Van Halen story. It was important for me.
Let's do it.
We were in San Francisco playing that amphitheater, and the tour manager comes by and says, hey, Damon, the brothers want to see you in the dressing room. And I was like, the whole band? And he's like, no, just you. So I go down there, and there's Edward and Alex in their dressing room. And Alex goes, hey, Damon, thanks for coming down here. We're having a discussion. And we're not so sure if you should just be the lead guitar player or if you should just be the singer and get a guitar player, because you sing great and you play great. But if you think about the biggest bands of all time, most of them have frontman guitar player. And as Alex is talking, Eddie's got this really frustrated look on his face. And he finally just goes, shut up, Al. He goes, Damon, don't listen to him. He goes, I told him, I said, Al, have you ever heard of anybody named Jimi Hendrix? Have you ever heard of Stevie Ray Vaughan? Have you ever heard of somebody named Kurt Cobain? And as these guys are talking, I'm kind of leaned back against the door, and I'm stepping outside of this scene, looking down on it like, oh my God, man, if my buddies from high school could just see me right now, it was
So
it
almost
was
having
the
a fight,
most,
almost having a fight in a way.
yeah,
Yeah.
like they were kind of scrapping. And they were both, their intent was pure.
Sure.
And Al was great, man. Al was always coming out and checking us out, and he loved our songs. He loved those songs that we wrote in Brother Kane. So but that's one of my favorite memories, man, is those two guys like arguing about me.
Yeah.
They're having an argument about Damon Johnson, whether he should front or sing or do both.
Isn't that
And,
something?
so Eddie won that argument, because here I am, man. I'm going to do both forever.
Not too many of us on this earth can say Eddie and Alex had an argument of where we should go in our lives. What a way to close out the night. That is
I did.
insane.
Yeah,
There's one last question here. He asked a couple times, and I don't know the answer to this. Mr. Hellstorm74 says, please ask him how Scott Rockenfield is doing.
You know what? I haven't talked to Scott Rockenfield in quite some time. Scott and I did a great record together, a band, a side project, Slave to the System,
Okay.
which I am proud of to this day. I totally endorse that record. So many badass songs, great lyrics, great arrangements, great production by Kelly Gray. I think those songs are going to get a remaster and possibly repackaged and put out with 2 or 3 songs that have not been released before.
Wow.
That's how much I love that record, and really did great work with Rockenfield, man. What a great drummer, and just the easiest cat to work with. He was super flexible, and anytime I'd have my weird songwriter, issues, like, well, should you play the hi-hat or is it the ride cymbal? He would play them both. He'd go, tell me which one you like, man. He's like that kind of guy. So, yeah, man, really proud of that record and those songs, for sure.
Mr. Hellstorm, thank you for asking that question, because that was a great answer. It's something I didn't know about. So that is really, really cool. So the record drops the day before my son's birthday. My son's birthday on March 9th. On March 8th, the record comes out.
Yeah, man. Memoirs of an Uprising on Double Dragon Records. March the 8th. It will be everywhere. It's exciting, man. There's the 3rd track from the album just hit today on all the streaming platforms. So you can still pre-order the record on iTunes. If you're on Spotify or Apple Music or any of the other streaming services, you can hear 3 songs right now. Shivering, Shivering. Dallas Could Have Been a Beatdown, which I ripped off Steve Lukather's guitar solo for that. Thank you very much.
Great.
Yes, I even told him so. I emailed him and told him. He loved it. And then the 3rd track hit today, Making Peace with This Wicked Beast, with some Stratocaster on it. So, yeah, man,
Stellar.
check them out.
So if I have 2 facts correct, one, if you pre-order now, you get Shivering, Shivering immediately.
Yep.
Okay, and red vinyl available in limited quantities as well, too.
Yes, that's on my website. Thank you, Eric. DamonJohnson.com. Got this gorgeous vinyl package, man. Red vinyl. I don't think we're going to do another repress of that.
So limited, very limited.
We got a few of them left, but about to put it in order for just the regular black vinyl as well. But having a great time, brother. Really excited for these tour dates coming up. My band is first class. It's an honor to play with these guys. All friends of mine, longtime friends from Nashville. Jared Pope on drums, Tony Nagy on the bass, and Tony Higbee on guitar. We are making a joyous noise, man. We can't. And we're trying to get to Canada as we speak, man.
Great.
I'm working on some things to get up there. I love the Great White North. Always got great interaction in Canada.
It's
certainly
nice
back in the 90s with Brother Kane. So look for that, man. We're going to try to make that happen.
That will be phenomenal. I'll look forward to that for sure. But listen, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know the fans here in the chat are very appreciative. This was a wonderful sit down, relaxed, really fun interview. I think you really got your head on straight. I'm a big fan. I'm a bigger fan now. But most importantly, this was a time that you got to spend with your parents this weekend. So thank you so much for taking time out of family to spend it with us as well, too. It's been
Eric, it was my pleasure, man. Continued success to you, brother. This was special. I got to show off that Gibson acoustic.
That was neat.
that's been in my memories since I was a kid, and I got to show off those teeth marks. My dad's going to get a big kick out of that.
There was a question earlier, and we'll wrap up with this. I forget who, Nathan Madden, I think it was. Do you know the wood type of that guitar? What was it? Was it rosewood on the back and sides, or?
You know what? I really don't, and I'm so proud of my relationship that I have with Gibson. Mm-hmm. I've thought about this before, and I might even do it this weekend, is take this guitar back home with me and just take it down there and let the guys give it a once over and tell me about it. You know, tell me what year it is, you know, what the top is, how the bracing is. You know, again, man, it's not like some expensive J200, but it's a cool little guitar, man. And I've not recorded with that guitar. I'd love to do that as well, man. Is maybe get something on tape.
Well, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to contact my buddy Aljon, who works at Gibson. He's the one who hooked me up with the Kramer endorsement. I'm going to tell him that if Damon's coming by, watch he doesn't bite on guitars. Watch those teeth.
Well played, Eric.
All right.
Well played, brother.
Listen, my friend, I'm going to say goodbye to you off the air. This has been an absolute pleasure. I cannot think of a better way to warm up a weekend than to sit down and talk guitar with a great individual like yourself. Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much for joining in tonight. I know I didn't get a chance to say hi and ask everyone the questions in the chat, but we appreciate you more than anything. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. Come on over and hang out with us again on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock as we welcome Johnny Lee from the UK over on the Helix Hour for a 60-minute show. We'll have some fun guitar hack. Thank you so much, Thrash and Metal Riffs. There, you know, so many great people here that make this thing possible. And just like in rock and roll, if you don't have an audience, you're speaking to nobody, and you're the best. So I'll say goodbye to you off the air. Everyone, rock and roll. We'll see you real soon, and until next time, cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
I am now on Patreon. If you enjoy my content and wish to support my channel and what I do, then please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/EVHGearTV. Your support assures the continued growth of this channel and a fun community in which to share our love for Van Halen, music gear, and much more.
My name is Eric and I'm playing Wolfgang guitar.
Video production services provided by Design39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for EVH and Gear TV are provided by Rode Microphones, and official Van Halen merchandise is provided by VanHalenStore.com.